23rd, 2026. Welcome to tonight's public hearing. My name is Jim Mazzacco. I'm the zoning examiner for the city of Tucson, and we have one case scheduled for the public hearing tonight. As zoning examiner, I conduct rezoning hearings on behalf of the mayor and council and make findings of fact which I put into a written report along with my recommendation, which I send to mayor and council for their consideration and for their final decision. My reports will be based on the information submitted to me, which includes the application, the staff report, all written approvals or protests, all correspondence and testimony given at tonight's public hearing. I also include in the record all documents submitted to me up to the close of the public hearing. Tonight's proceedings are being recorded. For the rezoning cases, I will complete a preliminary report within 5 working days after the public hearing is closed. I will then prepare a final report, which will be issued in 14 days after the public hearing is closed. A note to everyone, anyone may request that the application be heard at a public hearing before the mayor and council if the request is filed with the city clerk within 14 days after the date of this zoning examiner's public hearing. The mayor and council may also decide to conduct a public hearing without a specific request. So just be aware of that. There's a time for that. If you'd like to receive a copy of any of my recommendations or reports, and you're not listed as a party of record. A party of record is someone who has been notified by mail, the applicant, or somebody who speaks at tonight's public hearing. You can send an email for the report to tucsonrezoning@tucsonaz.gov or call the City of Tucson Planning and Development Services Department. Copies will also be available from the Planning and Development Services Department's website. The mayor and council will then, after they have their public hearing, will vote on the matter based on my recommendation, along with all other factors that they take into consideration. So here's how the public hearing is going to proceed this evening. First, the Planning and Development Services staff will give their report. Then the applicant may give their presentation, and then the public may then be called to testify. Then the applicant may respond to issues raised during the public hearing. There are speaker cards at the podium or nearby if you filled out one as requested. When I call on you to testify, please speak clearly into the microphone and begin your testimony by stating your name and address. This is not a particularly large crowd. I'd like you to keep your comments to approximately 5 minutes. I'll be looking at my clock, and if you need a little more than 5 minutes, I'll be glad to give you that to finish your thoughts. But after all parties have spoken at that point, I will close the hearing unless I see a reason to continue the case for hearing further, for further testimony. For those who plan to speak, I request that you stand, or if you wish to sit, and respond to the following. Okay, you ready? Usually we ask you to raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, thank you. And I see the group that stood up. And of the people who sat, if you said I do, I'll let you speak too. One thing I should clarify, there are 2 zoning examiners, and the zoning examiner who is supposed to hear this hearing tonight called me this morning and told me he had a family issue and he couldn't make it. So I just learned about this case this morning, and I did my best throughout the day to familiarize myself with whatever the documents and the protests and letters. I tried to read every one of them. So I know some things about this case, but there is a chance that I may ask to continue this case so I can make sure that when I deliver a report and a recommendation to mayor and council, it is fully thought out. So that's a possibility. We'll see. So anyway, we're going to begin. And so first, our name of our case is TPENT 1125-00023 East Jacaranda Way, Ward 2. So we'll start with the staff report.
Good evening. So this is a request by Joss Engineering on behalf of the property owner to rezone an 11.26 acre parcel from SR Suburban Ranch to RX1 Residential to allow for the development of a 12-lot single-family residential community. The site is approximately 700 feet south of the intersection of Tanque Verde Road and Bear Canyon Road within the Plan Tucson general plan area and the Bear Canyon neighborhood plan. Rezoning to RX1 would bring the existing units, which were annexed into the city in a non-conforming state, into conformance and facilitate subdividing the site into 12 parcels. Half of the newly created parcels would be developable with single-family dwellings. The site is located on Jacaranda Way between two local streets, Little Bear Place and Bears Path Road, with access to Tanque Verde through Bears Path Road to the west and the east. The rezoning to RX1 residential would also update the zoning for the site to be consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. The surrounding parcels are RX1 on the east, south, and west side of the subject site. Zoning to the north is C1 and is a self-storage facility as well as associated retail and commercial uses along Tanque Verde Road. As part of the proposed improvements, a roadway would be built from the southeast border of the site, running north and then west through the parcel, with direct access for the undeveloped lots on the east half of the site. The existing structures would have either direct access or cross access through only one parcel to the newly constructed roadway. Sidewalks and safe access walkways would not be provided to be consistent with the street design of the surrounding existing neighborhood. This proposal received 32 written protests and 1 written statement of approval and 7 requests to speak. The amount of protests and their location will necessitate the supermajority requirement for an affirmative vote by the mayor and council. The proposed rezoning is staff finds it is appropriate for the location, compatible with existing surrounding land uses, and in compliance with Plan Tucson and the Bear Canyon neighborhood plan. Subject to compliance with the attached preliminary conditions, approval of the requested RX1 zoning is recommended.
Okay, thank you. So do we have the applicant?
My name's Jeff Stanley of JAS Engineering.
Proceed.
Just proceed, okay. All right, so rather than go through a lengthy presentation, I'll just go kind of through a little bit of the history of this and then some of the important points that the neighbors have brought up as well. I should have a PowerPoint. I'm not sure how to get to it. How do I get what's on right there? Okay. Okay. Thank you. A little slow. Okay, so this is just an introduction that was read into the staff report. They're looking for 12 lots on this 11.5 acre parcel. And the location is, as was mentioned in the staff report. This is an aerial of the existing site. On the west side of there's some existing casitas. Those were originally part of Bella Ranch, an old time ranch out in the county. It was in the county prior to being annexed into the city. And the zoning at the time is, and still is, it's SR. So with the casitas, there's 6 of them and plus a couple of accessory dwelling units. They don't conform, they're not compliant with the SR zoning. So the purpose of rezoning this to RX1 will allow those units to become compliant to the RX1 zone. This is the zoning map. We're in the middle. The yellow is the SR. The purple is the RX1. And the red to the north is the C3 with the storage unit and the other stuff that was mentioned in the report. So we're proposing to do RX1 to match the surrounding units. This map shows the main washes in an area. A lot of the concern is because of this area, it does have some flooding. If you look closely on the south, there's a blue line. That's the overflow, overbank flow from the Tanque Verde Wash that's way to the south. And the blue line to the north, between our site and just south of the self-storage, that's the Feringer Wash. Both of those have floodplains associated with them, and we are not encroaching into those floodplains for either one of those. There'll be no development, no new development inside those areas. So we feel that we're not affecting the floodplain for the Tanque Verde or for the Feringer Wash. The Feringer Wash does cross the northwest corner. Again, we're not getting into that wash, and the Tanque Verde crosses the southwest corner. This is a topo map. Unfortunately, on my PowerPoint, I couldn't get it to turn. But if you look, and I'm going to walk over here and point to where the high point is, and then where water drains away from the property. So the high point is where I pointed, and then the flow arrows drain away from that. When we're talking about the drainage from the site itself, we're obligated to pay attention to where the water exits the site.
Sir, do you have a laser pointer there?
It
Oh, it doesn't work? Oh, okay. Okay. So you're showing the audience where the high point is, but I didn't see where it was.
Oh.
You can
Okay.
come up and just point to it so I can see where you're pointing. Sorry, it's, yeah. Okay. So, okay. I see. Okay. And is the top of the page north or what? Okay. North is to the right. Okay. Okay.
These arrows are showing downhill, showing topo lines and straining away from the top.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So for the drainage requirements by the development services, we need to capture part of the flow as it exits the site. We have a retention requirement, which is called first flush, which means we have to capture the first half inch of rainfall that comes off there and store that in a basin. And this will show where those basins are at. And I'll come around and point at those as well.
You know, if you could probably go over that one and I can see. Mm-hmm.
And the same high point.
Okay.
Flow arrows. So the flow arrows come, be captured in basins in different locations.
So that's toward the southeast? The flow is toward the southeast? Okay, straight. Mm-hmm. And the Farringer Wash, so the north, that's where the commercial property is? Okay. 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 Got it.
These basins are concerned with the thing.
Okay.
So the drainage requirements by development services are twofold. One is retention requirement, which is called first flush retention. That means that the first half inch of rainfall that lands on the site, we need to capture and retain that for infiltration into the ground. So the basins are all designed to capture that. The depth of the retention part of the pond, it can only be 9 inches so that you don't have water standing forever. The intent is to help mitigate ponding water, potential mosquitoes, so that the water soaks into the ground. So 9 inches is the limit for that. Then on top of the retention requirement, you have detention. Detention means that you have to reduce the peak flow that flows off the peak runoff that exits your site. You have to control that. And in this case, this is what they call a critical basin, which means that the existing 100-year, 10-year, 2-year storms have to be reduced by 15%. So if you have a 10 CFS coming off the site, you've got to reduce it down to 8.5, so 15% reduction. So when we're done, we have to let off less water than beforehand. And so the basins are designed for that purpose. Okay. Once the basins are built, and we go down the road, every year, the owner is required to have the basins inspected to make sure they haven't filled up with sediment so that they're functioning properly. So that's the report. If they're not, then they have to clean them out and make sure they're functioning properly. I've stated to the neighbors that I'm willing to meet with them because there's a couple of them that the basins are right near homes and they have concerns, and I have agreed to meet with them. I've promised to meet with them to see where their concern is, where they have an erosion problem or something like that, so that I can mitigate that issue. So that's the drainage part of it. So I guess at this point, we can let the neighbors speak and then we can respond to them.
I have a few questions.
Okay.
So could you explain how the 12 lots exit from the site? Because I wasn't real clear when I was looking at the map.
Okay,
Yeah, I understood the east 6 lots, how they exit the site,
Right.
but it wasn't as clear to me how the west 6 lots exit the site.
okay.
Their primary, what is their primary
They, all,
exit?
I'm sorry. All the lots exit at the same point. The 6 lots to the west have access to the hammerhead, turn around, and then they exit that way.
Okay,
I can-
so
I can-
even the farthest lot to the west, that's the border of
Mm.
the west, is there a paved road to get to that access?
There's
That road?
not a paved one. There's an easement across another lot to get to that point. I'll show you over here, and that makes sense. Each lot has to have access to the cul-de-sac or to the turnaround, and they can only have an easement across one lot to get to that point. So in this case, that's what's happening, and I'll show you over there, which maybe I'll show you, and I'll mention it at first. I'll point out in a second, but lot 1 in the northwest corner has an access easement across lot 5. So they'll come across at that turnaround with an easement across lot 5 to get to lot 1.
And you've already run this preliminary development plan through Planning Development Services, and they've told you up to now, you're okay with this arrangement of access to the properties.
Correct. And we had to make an adjustment. We had some lots, an easement serving 2 lots, and that was not allowed. The easement can only cross 1 lot to serve another lot, not 2 lots.
Okay,
It makes sense. So for instance, an easement across lot 5 to get to lot 1. There's an easement across lot 6 to get to lot 2. And then there's an easement across lot 4 to get to lot 3. So each lot just crosses one other lot with an easement.
because I've never seen a subdivision with this type of arrangement. And these easements or the driveways, are these just dirt driveways, or they have any kind of covering on them?
They're not required to be paved or you see here. The easements, they need to be gravel surface.
Okay, so they're going to have some kind of dust control.
Correct. There will be dust control on it, yes.
Okay. You mentioned that there are casitas on the property and that they were built when the property was in the county and it was SR.
Mhm.
You then said that because if through this rezoning they become RX1, those casitas, I guess you're trying to say they would become legal city ADUs. Is that what you're saying?
The casitas, some of the lots, a couple of the lots have an ADU on them. The casita would become compliant with the RX1 zoning.
But they don't have, do they have county permits?
They were permitted back in the day.
Okay, so they do have a county permit, some kind of zoning permit.
Best I know. I don't know positively, but I believe that's the case. So they were, I can ask the owner when. Should be.
Okay,
She's not here yet. She got stuck in
so
traffic.
to the best of your knowledge,
Mhm.
they're permitted structures.
Correct. To best of my knowledge.
But you don't know if they would meet the standards of an ADU, or have you checked that they would meet the city standards of an ADU?
It meets the standards of ADU in size, but I don't know in structure wise.
So I'd like to ask staff a question on ADUs.
Okay.
Could you tell me, what are the dwelling features of an ADU that make it an ADU?
So I think to preface the answer, there's commonly some confusion about the difference between casitas, ADUs, dwelling units, just because the city of Tucson was a bit ahead of the curve with our ADU ordinance, which formalized the legal status of like a lot of backyard casitas that were built kind of without permits. Basically, a dwelling unit has a kitchen. Ultimately, it comes down to it's got a full-size sink, 4-top burner, and a full-size refrigerator. That kind of is the definition for a dwelling unit versus something like a sleeping quarters, which is a detached bedroom, which has a bar-top sink, hot plate, under-the-counter fridge. I think the structures that are on the site now are what's called a legal non-conforming land use. Each one of those casitas, to my knowledge, is a full dwelling unit with a full kitchen. And so they become, in essence, just single-family residential units, which would be created upon the rezoning and subdivision of the lot. The second units that are on some of them, those would be termed accessory dwelling units, which is the term for a second dwelling unit on any residential lot within the city of Tucson. Physically, there's not anything different between a dwelling unit principal and a dwelling unit ADU, except that the dwelling unit ADU must meet certain size requirements. And because it's a rural residential zone, this land, it's not eligible for development through the recently passed missing middle housing ordinance. It simply would be each lot on this, each resulting lot, like the lots around it, would be limited to one dwelling unit and then one ADU.
So an ADU, it would, what you're describing, you're saying it needs a kitchen. It would probably need a bathroom too, I would assume.
Yeah, so a sleeping quarters can have a bathroom, ADU can have a bathroom. Really the one differentiating feature between what would be considered a legal dwelling unit and something like a casita or sleeping quarters is the full kitchen.
Okay, but not a bathroom.
I mean,
A bathroom is.
Yeah, I mean, a bathroom is a code requirement for a legal dwelling unit.
Okay,
So you can differentiate between.
Okay, so that I understand what you're saying, whatever is required in a dwelling unit is required in an ADU or a ADU. The basics of heating and kitchen and bathroom.
Yeah, the basic features of habitability, those will all be required in the ADU.
And what you're describing, these what staff has said, they're legal non-conforming uses. Do they have kitchens and bathrooms?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
They're small units. The area is listed on the map.
Okay. You in your compatibility report, I believe you said that the building height of the new single-family residences would comply with the building height of the city. They would be, you use the term, the city requires 30 feet and they would be within that realm. But I would like to know what you mean. Are you saying that these lots could be 2-story units?
They would need to conform to the RX1 zoning. So at 30-foot high, there's a potential that it could be 2-story, yes.
Because one of the concerns I noticed in the neighborhood meetings and whatnot was that there's mainly 1-story out there.
Yeah.
Do you know how far a building, a new single-family resident would be from the property line that is adjoining one of these properties or the existing properties?
Now there's the setback requirements are 20 feet on the east side, 25 feet to the north side. So the side yard is 20 feet, rear yard is 25.
So you could be putting a 2-story building 25 feet from your property line.
That's within the code, yes.
Okay.
Potential.
I'm just asking. And so that property line is 25 feet from the adjoining property line. So that's as much as they get as far as being next to a two-story building. And your answer would be, well, that's what RX1 allows. Is that correct?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Could you talk a little bit about wastewater issues on this site, or how that's going to be handled? There seem to be some concerns about wastewater management in this general area and sewer age in this area.
That's my understanding, that to the west, there's some infrastructure that had some problems. These currently, the casitas are all on septic right now. In the build out, those, we have to sewer those 6 lots to the west will sewer to the north, and then down around over to the main sewer. And once lots to the east will drain out onto Bears Path into that same sewage system. So, and I don't know the full extent of those problems. I know they all have mentioned it. I know in the review, flood wastewater had no comment about the situation at all.
And you're taking that to mean that the capacity of this subdivision, wastewater is saying the current system can absorb that amount of development.
I can't say that they've said that. We would have to apply for capacity before they would allow it to.
Okay, but up to now, they haven't expressed, say, wait a second, we have a concern here, kind of communication to you.
Correct. They've not made comment on that.
They would expect you to go through their process and
Right.
work out whatever needs to be done.
Right.
Okay.
They just reviewed the material that was submitted and had no comments. To step back a second on your the 30-foot height, there are some other 2 stories in the neighborhood.
I don't want to catch a blindside staff, but there was mention in your report that they were not required to do an environmental recess report. Could you just explain a little bit about what an environmental recess report is and why they were exempted from doing that? Do you know?
In the staff report.
Oops, sorry. Yeah. So, Mr. Zone Examiner, when it comes in for review, it goes through the engineering section with for the review of what the applicant will be required to provide. And so in this case, they were actually provided for the drainage. Right now, for the review is for the rezoning. Then a lot of times engineering will require more information at the time of the development package. But if you would like us to follow back up with engineering again, but they did not ask for that environmental resource report. And typically it has to do about the, if an encroachment is into the floodplain and.
Okay. Let's see, let's first open it up to the public first, and maybe we can discuss that after we hear more people. John, thank you. Yeah, I don't think I have any more questions for you. So thank you for your presentation, and then we'll turn to the public here.
Thank you.
Is everyone here? Okay. So I have the sign-in sheet here, and I'll just go from the top down, okay? First, Mr. Tom Adang, is it pronounced Adang or Adang? Adang?
Adding machine.
Okay.
Good evening, sir. My name is Tom Adding. I live at 2449 North Lightning A Drive in Tucson, and I currently serve as the president of Bear Canyon Neighborhood Association. Tonight, I speak in support of BCNA members and residents who live in parts of our three westernmost BCNA communities directly impacted by this proposed rezoning. These members are in nearly unanimous opposition to the proposed rezoning of this parcel 114-51-228C from SR to RX1 as currently designed. The substantive reasons for this opposition will be given by several residents directly impacted by the proposed rezoning. However, those reasons fall mainly in four categories. First, inadequate preservation of the integrity of the current neighborhood as outlined in the Bear Canyon Neighborhood Plan. Second, inadequate design for retention and detention basins and draining within the Farringer Wash watershed to the north and west of the area to be rezoned as already described. Third, inadequate sewer infrastructure. And fourth, inadequate road infrastructure that provides no emergency evacuation for a unique horse property area located in the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, floodplain. Now, one resident has provided or will provide a report and will describe and will do the following three items. First, to describe a past critical sewer infrastructure failure impacting her dwelling, pointing to the strong risk for the lack of sewer capacity for higher density housing. She will also request a capacity investigation report from the Pima County Management Group that certifies the current sewer system can satisfactorily handle the increase in zoning to the RX1 proposed development. Third, she'll demand a formal evacuation plan and all-weather access consistent with the requirements of Tucson Code Section 26-1.4. My additional opposition is a result of lessons learned during a wide-ranging 4-year evaluation of flooding risk to 7 of the 12 Bear Canyon Neighborhood Association communities that border the Agua Caliente Wash and Tanque Verde Creek to their east and south. I took on that evaluation at Councilmember Cunningham's request, as he was aware of my professional background. This proposed rezoning will occur on the northern edge of a FEMA special flood hazard area so complex that accurate floodplain modeling and mapping are impossible using current FEMA models. Second, there are unresolved hydrological and safety issues within this proposed development, which have yet to be satisfactorily addressed. Third, there's a strong likelihood that if rezoned and the development is completed, both the seller and the higher density housing residents will experience substantially increased flooding due to increased Tanque Verde Creek stormwater flow as a result of proposed building upstream. Means the water is going to flow a lot quicker because the washes will be constrained, and when they do, they flow faster. And they will then overflow more frequently. I'm also very concerned about the substantial building all along Tanque Verde Road, from the Adobe Vet Clinic eastward to Tanque Verde Road intersection with Houghton Road. That will further restrict evacuation of the Bear Canyon Road residents via Tanque Verde Road during a major catastrophe, whether that be a flash fire or damaging floods. And examples of that building along that road are Mr. Car Wash, the Mason Ranch Apartments, 2 Circle K stores, one underway and the other one being proposed, and La Roca Vista. Those are just 5 along that one. A year ago, the mayor and council decided to grant an authority to proceed with conditions for the Casita Village at La Mariposa to the east part of BCNA. I believe this proposed rezoning is similar in many ways to the Casita Village and could benefit greatly from considering a set of conditions to be met by the developer that substantially reduces the risks to public safety addressed by that will be addressed by the residents tonight. An initial list of a couple of the examples have already been proposed. I finish with asking you to consider this approach in moving forward, as it would be following the precedent set by the mayor and council a year ago yesterday. That's all I have, sir. Any questions?
Could you tell me who the person is who is going to give the more full report?
The ones I have seen some of the reports. I know that Julie Tabor is one. Mr. Trevor and Laura Harsh, the three of them that I know of. I've read the reports, and they have already submitted a report, as I understand. I saw the report that was provided to the zoning examiner's office, and I believe they're here tonight to speak to those, especially the past personal experience and the damage that was caused to her dwelling.
So you said Ms. Harsh?
Laura Harsh, is Julie here, Tabor? Okay. Yeah. Gloria, okay, and Ms. Trevor. Lisa Trevor. So the three, is Julie here tonight?
Okay, so Julia's not here, but Ms. Harsh is. Okay. Okay, it was a long letter, like very well written. Thank you. So if the people in the audience don't mind, I would like to hear Ms. Harsh next.
Apologies, we didn't have PowerPoint options, so we don't have some really made hard copies. And not rehashing anything that was in the letter, since that seemed fairly detailed. So this is more a take on the basins and our concern. So I'm Laura Harsh. My husband, Aaron Korf, and I reside at 8951 East Bears Path Road, which is immediately to the south of the parcel under review. And we share about 275 feet of property line. We strongly oppose the rezoning of the parcel from SR to RX1. We and our neighbors have many reasons for opposing the rezoning: nonconformity with the character of the neighborhood, transit and access problems, sewer and flooding concerns, to name a few. But I'll be discussing our concerns about the proposed retention basins on the property. The design for the basins as submitted seems perfunctory, a checked box at best, and irresponsible and potentially calamitous at worst. This is the third zoning attempt by the owner, each time reducing the number of parcels and hardscape, yet the design, size, and location of the basins has never been revised. The 7 basins are massive. They are located at the edges of the owner's property, where they will pose no harm to her or to any potential buyer, but directly threaten neighboring properties. The basins pose dual calamities of either capturing and sequestering too much water, depriving mesquite bosques on the properties below from the regular runoff that sustains them, or cause a dangerous deluge by being breached during extreme events, funneling a torrent directly onto the properties nearby. We have good reason to be skeptical of the basin design because the neighborhood has encountered the owner's engineer before. In 1998, the same engineer was hired to design a system to mitigate flooding onto Little Bear Place from the shopping center above it. Rather than resolving the issue, his solution made the flooding worse, which caused extensive damage to adjacent properties. It took 8 years in litigation before it was resolved. Today, unfettered control of runoff from the owner's property continues to wreak havoc on properties below it, recently overwhelming an electrical transformer in the path of the torrent. To mitigate that, the engineer seems to have gone too far the other way and made the retention basins too large. They are enormous, ranging from approximately 1,300 square feet to over 6,300 square feet. It's 3 times the size of our house. The total of a whopping 29,000 square feet, and will be, according to their drawings, 2 to 3 feet deep, which means that all vegetation within them will be stripped away. However, the engineer's report notes that no mesquites will be removed for the basins, and that's not true. In one basin alone, I counted 9 mature mesquite trees. These basins will be massive scars in the middle of the Farringer watershed and riparian zone that will have a terrible effect on the wildlife. The lack of vegetation will also contribute to the urban heat island effect, negatively affecting the residents around them and their property values. No one wants to live next to that, including any new buyers. This design carelessly treats our neighborhood like a parking lot, recommending municipal-style catch basins that become mosquito-ridden pits with concrete outlets. Residential areas should be designed to slow, spread, and sink the precious rainwater it gets, not sequester and fester it. We need runoff that preserves native vegetation without exacerbating flooding downstream. Controlling runoff with green infrastructure improves the lives of residents and property values with less maintenance required. I invite you to please come out and see how large these basins are in real life. It's very hard to tell from the drawings really how large they are. I oppose this rezoning, but if the committee and council decide to move forward with it, we ask that a condition be placed on the approval for a redesign of the flooding mitigation by a third-party hydrologist, as well as other conditions outlined in our neighborhood opposition letter. Thank you for your consideration.
Could you tell me what you mean by green infrastructure design instead of what you're saying is being proposed?
The basins that are proposed are considered more gray infrastructure, which is essentially something that you would see more in commercial buildings and more commercial parking lots. It's a pit with concrete and rubble concreted in place spout or overflow.
Okay.
And so when it catches, it just, everything runs out. So green is slowing and sinking water in multiple places rather than sequestering it to one giant basin. One of the basins is 95 feet by 67 feet. It's huge. It's over 6,000 square feet for one basin. And it's right on all of our property lines. That's just one.
This is in the design, the proposal.
Yes.
That's what you're saying. Okay. You can use this one over here if you like. Don't have to make you do all the zigzagging. Okay. 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 Okay, thank you.
Anything else I can?
I think that helped me understand what you were saying. Okay. Well, thank you. And I will take a look at your PowerPoint.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And Tina Trevor will be reading Julie Tabor's statement
Okay.
when she comes up, so can read that.
Okay, well, you want to come up now?
Ready to the zoning examiner. But this is from Julie Tabor. She lives at 8760 East Bears Path Road. And she's writing to formally oppose the rezoning from Suburban Ranch to RX1. My opposition is based on documented infrastructure failure, severe public safety risk, and the city's demonstrated inability to protect residents from catastrophic loss. Critical sewer infrastructure and failure and limited capacity. The sewer lines serving our property are old, undersized, and operated by the Pima County Regional Wastewater Reclamation Department. These lines converge directly in front of my home and run through the Farringer Wash. There has been a historical precedent of failure. In 2001, these lines suffered a total failure, forcing, according to our records, 15,000 gallons of raw sewage into my home. The health department condemned the property, and my family lost everything we owned without ever really being made whole. After the city's two-year remediation, our home was reopened with the interior completely demolished and unlivable. This was case number C20021336. The lack of capacity for higher density. These lines are already outdated and operate at high risk. Upgrading to RX1 density would add a significant load to a system that has already proven it cannot handle current demands. No one should endure physical or property damage or financial loss due to poor infrastructure and lack of planning. We have experienced all three, and with all documented and on record with the city. I have formally requested a capacity investigation report from the Pima County Management Group. Increasing density to RX1 without a certified guarantee that this outdated system can handle the load is a repeat of the negligence that led to my 2001 loss. Our neighborhood is a unique horse property. This is with regard to emergency evacuation. Our neighborhood is a unique horse property area located within a FEMA regulated floodplain. In the event of an emergency, there is zero viable escape route for our livestock and trailers to reach the Pima County Fairground shelters for the horses. During flooding, our only exit points wash out, leave us completely trapped. Increasing density RX1 without an all-weather evacuation plan is a life safety violation. In addition to personal horses, our neighborhood is home to a therapeutic riding of Tucson. It's also known as trot, where many therapy horses are boarded and would be at risk. Of course, we also have Bandolero there on Tanque Verde. In terms of the formal evacuation plan, under Tucson Code Section 26-1.4, the city is mandated to prohibit uses dangerous to public safety. Currently, our neighborhood has zero viability escape routes for livestock and trailers during flood events. I formally request that a comprehensive emergency evacuation and egress study be conducted by the City of Tucson Office of Emergency Management before this rezoning is considered. I'm requesting proof that the city can provide all-weather access required under Tucson Code Chapter 26 for a density increase in a FEMA floodplain. To increase density in a trapped zone where the only exit is either underwater or high-speed traffic hazard on Tanque Verde Road is a direct violation of the city's duty to its citizens. Daily hazard and cumulative impact accessing Tanque Verde Road is a daily risk for residents, and I'm going to cover this in my own stuff, especially those towing heavy trailers. This arterial road cannot safely support the increased traffic volume that RX1 zoning would bring. Think about it. Within a square mile from Barris Path, over 25 to 30 acres of SR property has been rezoned into luxury rentals and high-density multi-story apartments. This is huge. This hazard is compounded by the upcoming Mr. Car Wash that has been mentioned there on Tanque Verde, and it's directly across from our turning lane, and I'm going to get into this too, and the constant flow of heavy construction equipment from other nearby high-density projects that are happening now. Conclusion, we as residents have upheld our loyalty to the city by preserving these unique properties. We ask for that same loyalty in return. I urge the city to deny this rezoning until a formal evacuation plan is established and the Pima County Capacity Report proves that the sewer system can safely handle the additional density. I've attached photos of the 2001, she attached photos, but she has these pretty dramatic photos of her home and the destruction that occurred in 2001. Thank you.
Excuse me, again, like I told you, I just started learning about this morning. So could you go over a little bit this 2001 event? This was what happened?
It basically was a sewage backup.
Okay,
and
sewage backup.
I'm not sure about what time of year that was. And we are going to discuss some of what they're having to do with our sewers now in terms of pumping them regularly. They are in our neighborhood pumping our sewers. So
has there been any communication with the wastewater management department, with the county, with the neighborhoods?
Julie has worked on that over the years, and she could talk about it if she were here. We know that the Tanque Verde, new sewers being run along Tanque Verde, we're not sure if that's going to help us or not. It's the fact that the sewers are very old as well. So, and I know there's been other areas where sewage has come up.
And so her concern, and probably your concern, is that this is the same sewer system that's going to take on more
Yes.
dwellings at this point without any kind of indication that what happened in 2001
Can't happen
can't
again.
happen again.
And I think we also need to consider that most of these parcels may have 1 or 2 ADUs on them. So we need to think about that as well. It's just not a single family dwelling. So that will
Okay.
be using the sewers.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Is there another person that Mr. Adang talked to? Find out.
I'm Melody Brown, and my husband and I own 2 properties that are adjacent
Okay,
to
name and address for the record.
8835 East Bears Path and 8801 East Bears Path. And I was going to speak to where our personal residence, 8835. We've had 3 incidences where 2 of our bathtubs fill up with raw sewage in the last several years. And then last year, my husband was incapacitated at home after having surgery. They were out in the street pumping at that time. And my son-in-law was sitting there taking care of him. And all of a sudden they heard this gurgling, and it just started spouting sewer water out of the toilet. So that's happened to us on 4 incidences. So that's what I wanted to bring up. So I'm concerned, just like everyone else, that it is an old system and I don't think it's capable of handling all the new addition. So.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much. So is there an Ann Hollis?
So we have a couple of specific issues.
Okay.
What,
Oh, so name and address. For the
oh,
record.
sorry, Ann Hollis, 8900 East Bears Path.
Did you just arrive?
Yes,
You know, I swore everybody in.
I swore in.
Oh, okay, you
Yes,
swore in.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. One thing I'd like to point out about this map is the area considered for development is actually uphill. A good number of the houses that are represented here that have been having problems with sewage, we're actually below that hill in elevation. And my house and my husband, Steve Smith, our house is directly below the area that will be developed. We already receive a lot of flow and heavy rainfall from Bears Path, the water that is not absorbed by the soil. So, and it floods the area. The street itself becomes a stream of water. So that will increase. The more soil is covered in asphalt in housing, the more runoff there will be in heavy rainfall events. And we do have, last year we had 2 1-inch rainfall events in our neighborhood. I have a rain gauge in my backyard. And this winter is actually looking, it may actually be a wet winter. So we'll have more opportunity to watch the street flooding. We bought the house in the neighborhood specifically because it's horse property, and we already had a horse when we moved into town. Our last horse just passed away, but the character of the neighborhood is that it is horse property, and several people on the stretch that is downhill that will be flooded have in the past have either horses or sheep because it's zoned for that. So that's just on the little Bears Path Road. That's without even talking about the impact to the big ranches on Woodland, which are just south of us. So, and we have had a couple incidents of our bathtubs backing up with sewage. That has happened in the past. We haven't seen it for a while, but it has happened. So we are concerned about that issue as well. Do you have any other questions?
Not right now, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we can go back to. Hey, is this Roland Brown?
I have an antique PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
Just go over a couple things. This is really just flood related. Roland Brown, 8801 East Bears Path. Couple things. The height is a big issue for us. The one thing is the property is already, this subject property is already 8 to 15 feet higher than our property. So any house that's over 15 feet in effect is 30 feet to us. There is, as far as I know, only one two-story house in the neighborhood, and it's quite a ways away from this development. There's nothing contiguous to this development that's 2 stories, or even across the street that's 2 stories. So I personally am really uncomfortable with a 30-foot height. I would say the houses in our area are all probably under 15 feet. And like I said, you add 15 onto dirt that's already 10 feet higher. In effect, it's going to be 25. But, you know, I understand that, you know, as long as it's like the other houses in the neighborhood, I personally wouldn't have a problem with it. But 30 feet, I have a problem with. And then the sewer's been addressed, which is a big issue. The runoff, we've come close twice now having it come into the house. The pictures that I have there is from last year. It was about 3 inches from coming in. We can't handle any more runoff. I mean, we've got 600 feet that are adjacent. We're
Okay, you can go over there. Okay.
so water is just, and you know, it's just can't have, and the retention basin is kind of an issue. I think what Laura's talking about, and I've seen the city water is now putting in these little riparian areas along, you can see them along Kolb Road, Pantano Road. It's designed to slow and kind of ebb and tide and more of a riparian type way of water retention, something like that. I mean, we have to have something that guarantees we're not going to get flooded. And you know, and a half inch of rain, the picture I have there is 1.5 inches. And that damage that you'll see in those photos was from just that runoff. Holding a half inch of it isn't going to help us. We're going to be underwater. So that's kind of my big concerns. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Hey, Melody Brown? Oh, that was you, okay. And Lisa Irvin?
Hi, good evening. My name's Lisa Irvin, and I live at 8741 East Little Bear Place. My property is on the northwest side of the area that's proposed for rezoning. So it's directly bordering the property. I don't know, do you want me to point it out to you or you see it?
If you like,
Okay.
sure. Just speak a little bit louder because you're not on a mic. Mhm. So you're next to the existing kind of lots or yeah, okay, gotcha. I see. Mhm.
I'm concerned over the maintenance of these large basins. One of these basins, the second largest, is against mine, and I'm concerned that it will be exiting into the wash, which is between the strip mall and her property, and then that will empty into the wash on my property. I'm at a lower elevation than the property that's proposed for rezoning, so that's a concern. Last year, the wash was already at the top of its capacity, and any extra drainage added to the wash will flood my property and my house because I'm very close to the wash. These basins must be properly designed, engineered, and maintained, or they can cause or contribute to flooding and erosion. Considering that JS Engineering's track record of causing increased issues with flooding behind the adjacent strip mall, I lack the confidence that these basins will be built correctly. In addition, basins that are not maintained, they can become clogged, they cause flooding and additional property damage. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Looks like Katrina. Is there a Katrina? Katrina Trevor?
I do have a couple. For you, just so you can see things a little bit better. It's very simple, but I'm just. So my name is Katrina Trevor. Am I speaking too loud? I hope not. And I live at 8755 East Bears Path Road. I've lived in this house for 16 years with my spouse. We love this neighborhood, the walkability, the nature, the riparian habitats, and the horse properties. It's just a gorgeous place to live. I feel really fortunate. I want to reaffirm with you some of our neighbors' concerns about traffic, road design, and access conditions. And we've already talked a little bit by your questions here tonight. The memorandum, if you recall, states that there can be a direct access between the east and the west sides of these properties, and that's figure 1 that I've given you. So that if there is direct access, we have a concern that most of the traffic coming from the east side will come from the east side to the west side and then come down East Little Bears Path Road and not use the southeast access point that they're given. And this would create a real load on the East Little Bears Path Place Road there. Can you see that, I hope? And this is really a rural type road that's about 22 inches wide. And this would put a real burden on that. So what we're really asking, and it's in our opposition letter, is 3 of the major things that we're asking for is that I'd like to emphasize for you is that we want measures taken that would prevent through traffic that would flow from the east to the west side of the property. This is something that you ask about regarding this direct access. And we'd like to just have cul-de-sacs or turnarounds, because what would happen is really most of the traffic would go this way and not down Bears Path Road. We'd like the internal streets to be, this gets into flooding, it to be semi-porous or permeable surfaces or gravel to prevent additional runoff into the surrounding neighborhood. And we'd also like to see our neighborhood streets preserved and kept with the character of the surrounding landscapes and roadways. We don't want to see our roads have to change into some overly wide urban style roads. So these are the conditions, some of the conditions we're asking for to be considered prior to approving the rezoning. In the second figure that I've given you is really how the traffic flows out of Bears Path Road. As you can see, when we try to leave Bears Path Road and get to Tanque Verde, where most of us go, and most of us actually go west, we have to stop at a stop sign, and we have to go across 2 lanes of east traffic into the westbound 2 lanes at the median. Or our other choice is to go all the way up to Bear Canyon, make a U-turn at that light, and follow the westbound traffic. This can be really problematic for us to do, especially with the new sewer going in over there right now. We are also facing all the traffic that's coming from the Cortland Las Casas that you can see there that are directly across from Bears Path. The Mr. Car Wash that's going to be going in, that's going to create congestion. The Mason Ranch Apartments, which is 372 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units that are going to feed right there onto Bear Canyon and come down Bear Canyon to Tanque Verde to go west with the rest of us. There's also the new casitas at Catalina there at Catalina Highway. That's 194 luxury units that have been put in recently. And we have the new Circle K going in that's being relocated there at Catalina Highway and Circle K. So you can see that there's just, again, someone else talked about this, that this is just within our own area right now. So we have to think about Tanque Verde as the main artery running east and west in the entire northeast Tanque Verde Valley. Even to go north to the foothills, you have to go west on Tanque Verde and north on Sabino Highway, on Sabino Road, to get to the foothills. And a lot of traffic, I've noticed, I don't know about the neighbors, but a lot of traffic have to do exactly that. So they're coming through Tanque Verde to go north to Sabino and go up to the foothills. So there's also the concern that there's a lot of high-speed traffic that's occurring along this area. Basically, there's only one. There's the stoplight that you can see there at Bear Canyon, but the next stoplight isn't all the way till Pantano Bridge, which is 2.5 miles. Cars are flying through this section of Tanque Verde. It is actually getting to be quite dangerous. So it's actually becoming unsafe for the motorists, the cyclists, because we're kind of a cycling capital. So we also have, amidst all of this, we also have bicycle lanes that are happening through here. And of course, we have our horse trailers that are pulling on and off. And so it's particularly a problem for us too, entering and exiting East Bears Path Road. Even as I think was mentioned, we expect about 58 cars to be added to the traffic in our neighborhood. And even that is of a concern for us, and how traffic is going to flow and how we're going to get out of our neighborhood. We all recognize that we have some unsafe conditions going on with Tanque Verde and trying to get out there, and anyone who traverses Tanque Verde on a daily basis knows this. It's currently not configured to accommodate the additional single-family homes and numerous high-density developments that are continuing to occur throughout the Tanque Verde Valley. And finally, the significant safety issue that is of grave concern to all of us is that we are locked into this area. If we should have a wildfire or a flood, we are in big, big trouble. We had recently, sadly, a fatality at Pantano Bridge on Tanque Verde, sadly, and it was shut down, and many of us couldn't get home. We had to go over to Speedway, up, and it was crazy just seeing what can go on in our neighborhood. That gave us an example of what it would be like to be locked into this neighborhood. So we're requesting, too, that the city give a good faith reviews of the current and future traffic concerns impacting Tanque Verde Road and the whole of the Tanque Verde Valley. We want to see some remedies for traffic calming to slow things down a little bit, and emergency evacuation. So thank you for listening to our neighborhood concerns about our own roadways and those of our surrounding valley. We really want to save Tanque Verde Valley if we can. So thank you.
Aaron Korft?
I have 3 copies of a PowerPoint. My name is Aaron Korf. I live at 8951 East Bears Path Road. We live directly south of the Jacaranda property and are opposed to the rezoning of the parcel to RX1 as currently proposed. I, along with the 14 properties directly bordering the Jacaranda property, assembled a petition of opposition and submitted it in advance to the zoning examiner and city council for this meeting. It should be read into the record. It was received by email early this week. Our community has significant reservations that rezoning would do irreparable harm to the community character and properties if implemented. I contend that the proposed rezoning plan is out of character with the unique neighborhood in which we live. Bear Canyon Woods sits at the unique crossroads of the Farringer Wash within the Tanque Verde watershed. It's a delicate ecosystem, lush with wildlife, vegetation, and rich equine history. The neighborhood is composed of single-family homes that average 12 feet high and is dark sky compliant without streetlights. The current City of Tucson design guideline manual notes that new developments should, quote, improve the character of new projects and reinforce existing architectural character in established neighborhoods, unquote. Rezoning to RX1 would allow structures up to 30 feet, more than twice as high as anything in the neighborhood currently. Additionally, recent amendments to the City of Tucson's ADU policy allows up to 2 ADUs on each lot, with ADUs allowed up to the maximum 30-foot height also. This proposed RX1 rezoning would allow 12 one-acre lots as submitted here by JAS Engineering, which could then total 36 30-foot high buildings, something totally out of line with the neighborhood character. For a visual demonstration of how this would look, take a look at the photos in my deck. If you look at page 5, there is a photo of our house looking north toward Mount Lemmon. There's a 30-foot high telephone pole there. Our house sits 11 feet high, and the Jacaranda property just north of us sits another 3 to 4 feet higher, making the vertical difference even more overwhelming. The 30-foot high structure rendered beside it to the right would be allowable in RX1 rezoning, dwarfing all residential structures. It's not overly dramatic to say it's akin to staring up at the Hoover Dam from below, but without any of the competent planning, design, or implementation. Allowing 30-foot structures would be totally out of character for the neighborhood and out of line with City of Tucson development guidelines. We as a community do support responsible development, but ask that measures outlined in our opposition letter be met to protect the unique character of Bear Canyon Woods. My proposals already include a limitation of new structure heights to 16 feet, a limit of 1 ADU per parcel, and an imposition of a 20-year covenant barring higher density rezoning. This delicate ecosystem is too important to be left to careless and non-compliant property owners with poor development plans. This area is delicate and unique and worth protecting with the zoning criteria we propose in our objections. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. So excuse me, I do have one question. So your reading of the Unified Development Code is that you're allowed 2 ADUs.
Correct.
Could you comment on that? Is that true or?
Yeah, so any lot with a legal dwelling unit in the city of Tucson can have up to 2 ADUs.
So at least hypothetically, this subdivision, and if you had 6 lots, you could have 6 units plus 2 ADUs per property.
Right, so
that'd
there could be
18
1
units.
dwelling per the 6 units plus the additional ADUs. The ADUs are limited in size to 75% of the size of the principal dwelling. So for example, if there was a 1,000 square foot house, the ADUs would be limited to 750 square feet.
Okay, so there are some complications as to how many, I mean, it's only theoretically or hypothetically that you can have 2. It depends on the size of the primary dwelling.
Yeah, and the height of an ADU per the state statute now is that they are unable to be limited to below 25 feet. So it does set a maximum height of 25 feet for ADUs.
Okay. Okay. Okay, and we don't have to get into that. I think I'm going to ask for more material on ADUs and rezonings and how that works out a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay, oh, thank you. Okay, Matt Farringer? Okay, you're not going to speak then. Okay. And Kay Trevor? Oh, okay, you already did that. So is there anybody who hasn't spoken who meant to speak? Okay, but your names aren't on the list? Okay, okay, and that's okay then. Ladies first, she had her hand up first.
My name is Nancy Gamble. I live at 9019 East Bears Path Road with my husband, Steve Gamble. We are 50-plus year Tucsonans, and we are 26 years at that house that borders the property that is requesting the rezoning. The Bear Canyon neighborhood was annexed, as you know, in '84, and the city prepared and passed the Bear Canyon Neighborhood Plan August 6th of '84. This was to protect the area. This has established policies to preserve washes, promote water conservation, and preserve natural vegetation. The intent is to preserve or enhance the natural ground cover and environment to prevent erosion and to mitigate the flood hazards. Many of us have experienced, as you've already heard, flood hazards. Those who live on Bears Path, the parcels, on parcels next to this have been flooded many times over. It is necessary. Flooding is to our environment, but it has to be managed as a hazard. The Farringer Wash remains active to the north of this parcel and to the south as well. The floods specifically of '83 and '93 overran many homes on Bears Path Road, with increasing runoff causing from building upstream. Immediate neighbors of the area regularly experience a lot of overflow. Should this rezoning request be granted, the area on the existing parcel that is now permittable and with all would it instead be cement and foundations, additional streets, additional buildings. This is precisely why there's plans in place to protect the area. The area, as has already been discussed pretty heavily, it has the access issues, emergency access, and the traffic, but honestly, that's been pretty heavily looked at. I guess one of my biggest things that I wanted to say was that we have virtually 100% of opposition from pretty regular folks who want the best for everyone. I think that has to be heard and heard clearly. I know I would always try to be fair, and we wish no ill will for the owner. We just truly cannot see what the benefit is for anyone, I guess, except financial gain for one person and possibly the development that it's being sold to after it's rezoned. I try to think of what would be a positive and truly can't come up with it. We have wildlife that will be displaced. The area is riparian-like. Some areas are riparian, but this is riparian-like, I would call it. So you would get so much disruption for the plants, the animals. The current property owner purchased it and it was zoned this way. So again, I can only come up with, I guess, thinking that she can just push this zoning through that to get it changed. It's already been, I also had concerns with heights and 3 properties on every lot, but that's been pretty well covered. So we'll leave it at that. I don't see how this benefits the neighborhood, the community, or the city of Tucson. I think the city of Tucson would have to start coming in and having costs because of flooding, because of traffic, because of emergency access. I think that the neighborhoods of course, had great opposition to it, but it's also the community. The area is heavily used for bikers and hikers and just people driving through to see horses and pastures. So it is a treasure in our Tucson. So I don't see how it benefits the whole city of Tucson as a whole. So we got the wildlife, the animals, the wildlife, the people that live there, the community at large, or the city of Tucson itself. So I just ask that you please consider our voices in this. They're collective, they're strong, and they're concerned. So I thank you for that.
And you, sir?
The engineering company, I'm Steve Smith, 8900 Bears Path. I live with Ann Hollis, and we are all the neighbors that abut up to the south end of this parcel. We live right across the street. Just a question of clarification from the engineer. You mentioned maintenance of these basins we've discussed, and you said, well, the owners will have to pay for any maintenance down the road. When you say owners, clarification, are you talking the people who live in this parcel, or is everybody now along Bear Path, we're gonna have to pass the hat? You said owners would have to pay for it. Just those owners or everybody? How would this maintenance, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, how is that handled?
Okay. So we'll let you speak in a moment, sir. Everybody has spoken, I take it. Okay. So we'll have the applicants represent. Oh, would you like to speak? Yes. Okay. Please come forward.
Well, I'm Carolyn Larrabee, the owner of the property that's being talked about here today. There's been concerns about the two-story, but Woodland has massive 3 or 4 two-stories. That's only 2 blocks away from me. There's one on the cul-de-sac Cottonwood that's right next to my property. And there's one on Bears Path that's just adjacent to my property that's a massive 2-story. So this, I don't understand how they can say there's no 2 stories there. I do appreciate the concerns my neighbors have stated. I live in that area. I love that area just like you do. I moved there because I love the trees. And I have done a lot going back and forth with the city to save trees on the property with the design. I've had to do that several times because they were just remove them, transplant them. You can't transplant a 100-year-old mesquite tree. It's got tap roots. You can't transplant it. So I love those trees just as much as they do, and I love the area just as much as they do. Now, I would not be pursuing this rezoning if I really believed it was in conflict with the standards of the city of Tucson for that area as they are established now. My rezoning request is that from SR to RX1 so that the property may be developed in a manner consistent with the current zoning classifications that already exist. And in this area with the development standards of the city of Tucson. We want to comply with these rules and regulations and standards. Much of the focus has been on the discussion of preserving neighborhood character under the Bear Canyon Neighborhood Plan. I want to clarify that the Bear Canyon Neighborhood Plan is for not just Little Bears Path, but a whole little area. And when they designed that plan with Tanque Verde Country Estates, Tanque Verde Acres, Castle Rock, Bear Canyon Woods, it was not written for the purpose of freezing any single street or parcel in time. Within the broader plan area, there are many two-stories, as I've already stated. RX1 zoning already contains clear height, setback, and design standards as established by the city already. And that any future homes would have to comply with those standards. Accessory dwelling units, ADUs. Now, I read the codes and it said 1 per RX1 zoning. Now, maybe in another zoning, they can have 2 ADUs, but not in RX1. And that was even confirmed by the city when we were submitting our plans. And they also, as has been discussed, regulated these ADUs. They're limited in size, and they have to be reviewed and approved through the formal permitting process. It would be unreasonable, I feel, to impose speculative future restrictions on this one property when it otherwise does meet all the standards, especially where similar entitlements already exist throughout the neighborhood. My request simply seeks parity with the zoning classification that is in and the area around it. As far as traffic, 6 homes, I'm only asking for 6 additional homes to be able to be built there. Not that I'm going to build them, because I don't want to do that. I just wanted to sell the property. That's all I wanted. And then possibly there could be another 6 ADUs. That's always a possibility, but there could also be 20 other ADUs in the rest of the neighborhood. How's that fair to the rest of them? You can build ADUs, and you have. Now, based on standard trip generation estimates, 6 new possible homes represents a modest increase in traffic and does not approach levels that typically trigger roadway failures or neighborhood disruption. You know, when everybody bought their homes back then, they all raised families. They had 2 or 3 teenagers driving around, all of them with that, and they didn't complain about traffic then. But now that because I want to add 6, they want to complain. The emergency only access on Little Bear to Little Bear has already been established that will be an emergency exit for emergency vehicles only. And not only that, it goes through the wash. So who's going to want to drive when they can have nice flat land to go clear down here and go through a wash? Not many. As far as the stormwater drainage and sewer concerns, they are understandably important. There has been flooding, no doubt about it, in the area. But I have to think that by us adding these new drainage systems, we're going to help, not hurt. We're going to help. And about them in their size is what is calculated that will do that. And that is the reason for them. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Have the applicant's representative, would you like to make some comments?
Again, Jeff Stanley. The question was about maintenance, and that would no way be passed on to anybody else other than the 6 lots or the entire subdivision. The 12 lots would have to take care of the maintenance of those things. And the size of them, again, I'm more than happy to meet, and when we get to the design stage and shrink those down, do what we can. We can revegetate them. They're not going to be just a blank there. We put mesquites in there. There'll be some There would possibly be some concrete or riprap to control the waters that comes out. But we need to reduce the amount that comes out that at the same place that it comes out currently. So I think that's it.
Okay, well, would you, since you're the property owner and he's representing you, you're welcome to say your last comments too.
The design of the drainage facilities are based on what the city has estimated and decided was proper for it. Not just him, it's what the city has designed and said is proper for it. And the calculations are their placement, their size, their detentions are based upon hydrology, grades, and regulatory requirements. They are not subject to city oversight. So we are going to have a homeowners association to take care of them. That's already been decided for that little area. Also, these retention basins are put in certain places because of the level of the land, okay? The lady that, or the person that had the flooding, she's lower, and my property goes lower right by her. And of course, that's going to cause flooding. And if we don't even put anything there, it's going to happen anyway. So I would think she would be happy to have us put a big one there. Similarly, sewer connections must be reviewed and approved by the city prior to construction. Getting the zoning does not give you the right to construct. You still got to go through all the construction process and get that approved before you can even build anything. And these systems are also governed by technical review, not assumptions. Change is a part of living within an incorporated area to the city. RX1 zoning represents a moderate, low intensity residential use, not high density like all those others that really nobody wanted. The big apartments, the big casitas, all that. We're only talking about a little tiny 6 acres here. And as far as the other 6 acres they're already built on, then they're not going to be changed. I believe that the rezoning aligns with the city planning goals, and it respects the surrounding neighborhood as much as it can and relies on established review processes rather than exceptions or special treatment. Now, I remain open to any reasonable conditions for approval that are supported by code and technical analysis. And I thank you for listening to me.
I have a question for you. One of the neighbors suggested, they don't want 2-story. They suggested a 16-foot height limit on the buildings. What do you have to say to that?
First of all, I don't know why new restrictions should be placed on me and not on them. First, that's number one, because there is other 2 stories in the area, and that was accepted then, but not now. I don't know. As far as being 20 feet from the property line, I don't know anybody that lives on an acre that builds their house 20 feet next to the property line. So we're not going to be looking in their windows. They're going to be mostly in the middle is where the houses would be built in a 1 acre site, or toward the front. A lot of the houses along there, Bears Path, are all a lot toward the front. That's the typical way it's done. I can agree to some modification to that, but not 16 feet. No, not when there's other massive 2 stories in the area.
Okay.
Woodland has 4. I have pictures on my
Okay,
phone.
we're not going to get into cross discussions, but thank you. I just wanted to hear what you had to say about that.
Thank you.
Okay. So at the beginning, I told you I just was introduced to this case this morning. I've learned a lot today, and I've learned a lot from this public hearing. But I think there's still more I need to know. I've heard pros and cons of different issues, and I would like to hear some third-party input into some of this. And I'm going to continue this case. And John told me earlier that the May 21st is the first open date to do that on. So I'm going to keep the public hearing open, so you'll still have a chance to speak. And John, I'm going to ask for a couple of things, and I may ask something from you, Mr. Stanley. We'll see. So the reviewer, we've had a lot of discussion about the floodplain issues and floodplain management and flood engineering, retention, detention, whatnot. I'd like to hear from our subdivision engineer what his take on this is. I've heard the take of, two different sides of what this means, and I'd like to hear what he has to say about that. I'm not sure if we can do this, but I would like to hear from wastewater management. That's Pima County. Now, it would be wonderful if they would agree to come. If we provided them with some background materials of what's happened in the public hearing, and that they could come, or that we could get a letter from them, and maybe Mr. Stanley, you can get a letter from them as to a little more detailed than no comment, we'll review it later. I would really like to hear what they have to say about that area and the addition of this subdivision into this area, what that means to wastewater management and what they're going to say about that. Okay. John, I'd also like to hear from the Department of Transportation. Do they have any particular plans going on in the Tanque Verde area around this particular area where the rezoning is occurring? And especially as it pertains to emergency access away from some catastrophe, like a fire or a flooding catastrophe. What would be their comments on that, as it affects this area, and how this rezoning would be effective or be a part of the problem, and what they have to say about that. And finally, I'd like to hear from staff in a more formal way the relationship of ADUs with rezonings, and especially on this case. And maybe what we've already said is what they're going to answer, but I'd still like to hear that. And I'd also like to hear about the legality of the existing casitas. What are they, and how do they fit into this rezoning? If you could, that's a lot, but we have till May 21st, and some of this can be in writing, some of this can be people showing up. I'll let you, do what as best you can. But I would like the subdivision engineer to come and speak, at least. And if wastewater would come and speak, that would be good too, Or if Mr. Stanley can get the letter from wastewater telling him that the city zoning examiner would like them to come and speak about the sewer catastrophe they had in this particular neighborhood in 2001, and where are we now with that, and should we be adding new units at this point in time, or can we? We're not should, maybe can we is the right way to phrase it. So with that, it is, what time is it? It's 7:44 p.m. I'm going to end this public hearing for today and open it up again on May 21st. And you'll all be allowed to speak again, okay? Do you want to say something, Correct. No, I'm going to make a recommendation after the May 21st hearing. Okay? I won't continue it again. That'll be it. And after that, I will make a recommendation. Okay? Okay, thank you all for coming and see you May 21st if you want to come.